following podcast is recorded and produced by the Podcast Precinct in affiliation with the network at bicbp-radio.com. The Podcast Precinct. Consistency, creativity, culture.
The Nostalgia Funhouse proudly dedicates all episodes in the loving memory of Connie Chirac.
He's prehistoric. He can do ABCs. A, B, C, D.
Microsoft Actimate's Interactive Barney.
Hello there. Squeeze my hand and I'll move.
No. We watch videos together. Barney knows the computer.
Good job.
Microsoft Smart Toys. They interact with your television, your PC, and your child.
Peekaboo.
There you are. That was fun.
I love you. You love me. Let's get together and talk about the Barney Documentary. I think I got it.
You got it. You
I got it.
Not only got it, you nailed it. That
There
was
we go.
incredible. That's right. Here on the Nostalgia Funhouse, Andrew and I, Johnny, are going to celebrate the first half of November with a Barney extravaganza.
Yes.
We're going to cover two different Barneys this week and next week. So hold on to, as Samuel Jackson famously said, hold on to your butts.
Yes. One Barney, beloved by many, and the other Barney, not so much as we get into this episode.
Yeah, at hiding this one Barney that reaction was split.
Yeah.
And that's putting it kindly.
Yeah. Very.
Yeah.
But we are talking about the documentary on Peacock, the I Love You, You Hate Me Barney documentary, which I feel is something that I don't felt was needed, but we did need in a way.
Yeah, it wasn't something I would ever think to myself, man, I wish, I promise you, I never once said the sentence or thought the sentence, man, I wish there was a documentary about Barney the Purple Dinosaur. That's never, ever popped in my mind, but man, it's a really good documentary.
It really is, because I think Barney is one of those things that are kind of like past our time.
Oh, yeah, yes, yeah.
And I do remember watching Barney on PBS. I went through a weird PBS kick around 92.
Yeah.
I think it was because it was like the first summer that my brother was old enough to kind of like babysit me, so we stayed at home all day.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really anything to do other than watch PBS because I was not into The Guiding Light or As the World Turns or
Yes.
the Hospital at that point in time. So it was kind of like,
Yeah.
I guess it's on. I'll play with my G.I. Joes if none of my friends are outside. But that,
yeah. My PBS shows were Sesame Street, of course. Reading Rainbow for sure. That's probably my favorite one. Wishbone was one that I really loved as well. What's the story, Wishbone? What's that you're dreaming of?
We
Such
talked about-
imagination.
we talked about, as you stated before, that dog has the best acting range out of anybody.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh
on
yeah.
TV.
And
Ghost Rider was good.
oh yeah. Oh yes. Well, yeah. Barney though, I think the reason that I hated it was, well, first of all, I don't think people realize how long Barney was around. From like 1988 to 2010, pretty much. That's a long span. Like if you would have asked me to just guess when it was around, I would have said like 91 to 94 or something like that would have been my guess, right? Because I think it's when it kind of hit its peak. It was huge. But it was around that time. So I was born in 83. So I was probably close to 10 or something like that when my little cousin, who was in preschool, during the summer, my mom would babysit her. And so she hung out with us a lot, right? So I basically consider her like a sister now because she was always around us. However, when she was that young, she ate everything Barney up, right? She loved Barney. We had to have the tapes and everything for her because that was her favorite thing. And it just ate away at me little by little because I just couldn't take it, right? It was 10-year-old me thought I was way too cool for this type of thing. And I think it's, and if you think about it, I think it's where a lot of the hate comes from. Well, honestly, when anything gets big in the first place, but when something gets big and it's, for whatever reason, if it's meant for kids, like adults, it's really strange how some adults will have like an extreme hatred toward it when it's obviously not meant for them.
Yeah. When this podcast was named under the Let's Talk But No Politics Okay title, Bryce Benjamin and I, we did talk about early childhood programming.
Yeah.
And it was very different from what he was saying compared to what I watched. And we're about, I think, maybe 8-9 years difference.
Yeah.
In age. And it was, I think he mentioned Barney, because like I said, by this point, I'm definitely not watching Barney, but it was interesting. And they do make that comment in this documentary that, throughout the 80s, even into almost the early 90s, there wasn't a lot of early childhood programming out there too much. And
Yeah.
I kind of got a little upset by that, because I was like, well, listen, I did have it, but it wasn't on all the time. I was lucky enough to live by the Canadian border, so I watched Mr. Dress Up, Fred Penner's Place, The Friendly Giant, things like I mentioned to anybody outside of that area. They're like,
yeah. See, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah.
These were my people. So, and I thought that was kind of cool that she did this. And then I also realized she was a stay-at-home mom with an only child. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So she was like, let's get this going. And that's why Barney came to be, because she wanted her son to have something entertaining to watch that she didn't feel was like violent, because most of the time, I'm not gonna lie, as a kid, and even we were watching, like He-Man and Transformers and G.I. Joe, and
Yeah.
He-Man and G.I. Joe gave us valuable lessons. I learned not.
Oh yeah. At the end, they always told me stuff.
I learned not to take prescription medication that wasn't prescribed to me from G.I. Joe. See?
Yeah. Thank you. Go Joe.
Yeah. But that's pretty much like how this all was created, was just her saying, I got an idea and I need my son my only child to have a friend.
Yeah, I get that. I did have friends growing up who were only children. One of my neighbors who I was a good pal with, he was an only child. And you can obviously tell, like, that's a lot to deal with. I know some people think, oh, it must have been great, but there's pros and cons to every situation. And, I thankfully he grew up to be okay. I believe, I haven't talked to him in a long time now, though, but I just have very
friend you are, John.
well, he moved away, so
okay.
But
excuses.
Yeah, but I used to go up to his house all the time because he was the only child. He was a child of divorce too, so he got the pros would be of that, and this is, I'm not saying it's great, obviously, but the pros are that he got a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
So like he got all the game systems when they came out, and all the games. Like that's where I first got to play Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters, for example. I was up at his house. But yeah, it's definitely a different situation from, like, I grew up and my sister was always around, from what I can remember, because I'm only 2 years older than her, so she was always around, and I didn't know what it was like to just be by yourself.
Yeah. I get that. I have an older brother. He's about 3 years older than me. So it was like, there was times where I was like, I wish I was an only child, but I look back on it and all the stuff that we did, other than when he wasn't torturing me.
Yeah.
It was, I think I would have missed out a lot as an only child.
Yeah. Me and my sister are like total polar opposites. But it's just it's very different if you kind of grow up alone as compared to, if you ask most little kids, a lot of, like, I'm talking like, up to 3 years old, ones who would be watching Barney.
Yeah.
I think most of them would say, if they don't have a sibling, be like, yeah, I want a sibling,
Yeah.
somebody to play with, basically.
It's somebody there.
Yeah. So let's have a purple dinosaur.
Yeah. He wasn't, I was shocked. He wasn't always a purple dinosaur. He was a teddy bear for like one, and then they were supposed to have like a whole cast of characters. And
yeah, what's the lady's name who created it? I've already blanked on her name. She's all over this documentary, obviously.
Sherry Leach.
Yes. So it's a 2-part documentary.
Yes.
But it comes in probably under 2 hours total together. And she creates basically Barney from like Andrew was saying, they only had her and her husband only had one child, and she noticed there wasn't a lot of television that was kind of geared towards his age. And he's what little kid didn't like dinosaurs growing up, you know?
Yeah.
So let's make this a dinosaur. So they finally made him a dinosaur, and they started making VHSs, and those really caught on. So that's kind of how he got going. But this documentary has some pretty wild twists and turns. We're going to have spoilers here. So please, if you're interested at all, and I think I can speak for Andrew and say that this is a must watch. It's beyond way more fascinating than you think. So go give it a watch. There's some twists and turns in it that we're going to spoil because we have to talk about them.
Yeah.
So know that going in. Go watch that, then come back to this.
I think if you were a parent around this time, all the way to a kid at this time, this is a must watch.
Yes.
Yes. If you had any connection or even thought about Barney or was part of the Barney,
or if you just remember him being everywhere at one point, because he was everywhere at one point.
He was everywhere. I remember that.
So let's talk about the first moment that my jaw dropped is when. So there was an original guy in the Barney suit, but he actually ended up enlisting.
Love this.
Yes. So he has to leave, and this is right as Barney's about to get big, and right as he's about to take off. So they get another guy in here to do it, and it's and this is gonna sound like we're making it up, but it's revealed that this guy who played Barney for a good long while, especially while he was famous, he was Barney. When Barney was a big deal, he was the one who was in the suit. But this guy is a tantric sex therapist. Ain't that what is that how you describe him?
Yes. And I love the interview with him where they're like trying to say, like, do you have sex with your students? And he's like, well, if that's part of like I don't even know how to say it, where it sounds like just if you're not in that realm where
they're in a car. I know this scene specifically because I had to watch it twice.
Like he's trying to get around, like if it's part. The only way I can think about it is if it's part of the package, then yes.
Yeah, like he sells his services like there's different levels to it, and depending on which level you get, one of them does include. It's like I guess a perk. But the documentary guy flat out asked him, goes, well, they're in a car, do you have sex with your clients? And he goes a long way of saying yes. He says a lot of words, but basically he should have just said yes.
Yeah, he was trying to tiptoe around it. And the other thing was he was this before he was in the Barney.
Yes. Right. They made him like, they go, while you're playing Barney, you can't talk about this.
Can't talk about it. I think did they tell him he couldn't do it at all, or
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
You
he had to sign that in the contract, I believe.
I'm pretty sure the payment of Barney was pretty good. So
I would think so, especially as he was hitting his stride there in the 90s. But yeah, so that's a pretty big reveal that Barney himself was all into this tantric sex stuff, and I'm assuming it's just so bizarre because he goes out of his way of saying it's not he tries to make a point that this is not a sexual thing.
Yeah.
Like it's more of for your soul, and it's like a calming thing and stuff like that. But like just be honest and say, sex is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Like just say it. Like we all know.
I love how the originals never get into the big thing. Like the original writer of Barney, they just like cut him in a nice way, saying you're way too creative for us, because he wanted to make Barney into this Bruce Willis moonlighting character, which I think would have been 100 times better than Barney.
Oh yeah, see, I would have watched that. Yeah, for sure.
That's like out there making jokes and like goofing around. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, okay. And then they were like, and then they wrote me they brought me in and said that I was way too creative. Way too creative, or my creative ideas were like out of control or something like that.
Yeah, they're like, we just want to teach kids to count numbers.
Yeah.
And you're trying to make Bruce Willis type jokes. Yeah, it's pretty wild. I will say, know this also going in, they interview a lot of people related to this, right down to like the babysitter of
Yeah.
the family, but they never actually interview anybody from the family, from the
No.
Leach family.
Yeah, because they all declined, and I don't want to get there's some spoilers even with them. Like,
Yeah.
there's
I dare say the biggest reveal of this whole thing is in part 2, which is related to them.
yes, yeah.
But we'll get to that. Yeah.
And part 1 is just pretty much the rise of Barney, and
Yeah.
then
Oh, I do love when I was watching it, when I first started watching it, I was texting Andrew and I was like, within the first 5 minutes, I was like, this is a must watch, because they do a little montage at the beginning of showing all these people praising Barney and how much they love Barney. All these parents say Barney's the greatest. And then they cut to this, I'm assuming like a college age guy pointing a gun to a plush Barney and blowing its head off.
I think he calls him a commie too.
He calls him something, he cusses him out.
Because that's like the big part of this is the first part is like the love-hate relationship of Barney.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
It's almost vitriol, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like you either absolutely adored this character or it was literally the bane of existence.
Like the parties at Nebraska, the Barney bashing.
Yeah.
I thought that was maybe because it was college. I understand it, but if that was actual like adult, I would have been like,
Right.
that this is overboard. But because it was in a college setting, I mean, what else are you going to do?
Yeah, college, you find any reason to get your friends together.
Yeah.
And do stupid stuff. So I understood that, but it's just so weird. Because at its core, Barney is harmless.
Yeah. I like the father who also, the advertising executive that started the I Hate Barney Secret Society. And in a way, I get what he's going at, but I think he went a little bit too far where he does talk about where it wasn't anything relatable to his daughter. And he was on the road a lot. So when he came home, he wanted to spend time with his daughter. But
yeah, it sounded like it came out of a bit of jealousy, right?
Yeah. Like I can't connect with my daughter over Barney. And which I find as a parent a little bit rough because my kids as they get older have gotten into different things. My one son discovered anime. So everything was like anime Demon Slayer. I can't name any of the characters, but if I sat down and watched a Demon Slayer show or movie with them, yes. And that's just because sometimes you just gotta, doesn't matter if you enjoy it. I mean,
it's more about the time you're spending with.
Thank you. I don't want to give anybody like parenting advice or make me sound like I'm like the greatest like father of the year, but
like I guarantee you, my dad. I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm assuming that my dad didn't care one way or the other about basketball. He was just there, but he would go out of his way just to shoot hoops with me sometimes, right? Because he knew I love basketball.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah,
I do have.
It meant the world to me. So.
And on the other side, I do have to admit, when my kids were growing up, I did ban a kind of a cartoon in the house just because I found it annoying. But they never really found it or got into it. Like,
what is it? I gotta know what this is.
It's called Kipper. So
I do not know what this is.
My youngest
Kipper.
Yeah. So my youngest cousin, well, not really my youngest cousin, it would be my second to youngest cousin. He's like 16, 17 years older than me.
Is it a dog?
Yes. Okay.
I've seen this. I've not seen it, but I've seen this character.
Yeah. So he would watch Kipper, and I would do everything the way to get him to not watch Kipper because I hated how I felt the creators of Kipper were lazy because it was just a white screen, and then all of a sudden there'd be like a tree with a little bit of grass around it. Like
that's a lot of programming now for kids this age, though. Is this? So very minimalistic type stuff.
Maybe because I'm used to like Voltron, Form Blazing Sword, Power Rangers flipping all over the place. I was like, this is annoying. Okay. And they would, and he would be like, oh, hello, pig. Because I believe they were all British accent. Oh, hello, pig. What are you doing today? Oh, Kipper, I'm doing this by this tree.
Oh, Kipper.
Yeah. And it just annoyed the crap out of me. So I wouldn't say I banned it, but I like put it away. Like, okay.
I get it.
Like watch this.
My cousin who I talked about before, she has 3 kids now. One of them's really young, and this kid is 2 or 3, and she loves this show called Coco Melon. And Coco Melon is the worst thing in existence to me. It is so purely awful, and the animation looks very lazy. It's all computer animated, but it's lazy stuff. All the songs, and it's pretty much a musical but all the songs sound exactly the same, just with different lyrics. And like, it just drives me bonkers. I can't take it. So, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, we should burn everything Cocomelon is.
Yeah.
It's just not. Obviously, it's not for me.
We're not gonna have secret societies or make a Barney D&D role playing game.
Yeah.
I can't even remember what that was even called.
Basically, they made a role playing game where Barney was like the evil thing they were fighting.
Almost
And,
satanic.
yeah, which I think that sounds kind of fun to me. But
It did.
yeah, and he and on the second part, he comes off pretty well to me because he kind of felt like they sort of opened the door for a lot more of the hatred on the internet, because this is early days of the internet, and he didn't feel good about that. So
I love it how they addressed that. Like that Barney Secret Society newsletter was circulated through email, and
yeah,
this is the beginning. It's almost like Barney started the internet troll era.
yeah. It, like, Barney and Beanie Babies kind of came around right as the internet was hitting. Was really starting to hit, and that's Beanie Babies famously had one of the first viral websites, right? And Barney was another one of the big things during the same time. It's just pretty crazy to think about, really.
The jihad to destroy Barney.
That's it. Yeah. Yes. That's the D&D game.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I wonder if Anthony ever played that. We're not podcasters.
Yeah. Anthony's younger than us. I don't even know if he knows what Barney is.
He knows what Barney is.
He'll surprise you. I don't know.
Yeah, he probably will.
What about our buddy Jake? You think he would know what Barney is?
Jake.
Yeah. Jack.
Oh, Jack. That crew? Yeah.
Yeah.
That crew, I could guarantee it.
Man.
Jack's 26.
Yeah, he's a lot younger than me.
Yeah, so he's got to be in that prime Barney area, because my cousin watched Barney, and he's, I don't know, in my mind still 12, but he's considered an adult with a job. So,
oh man.
But in my mind, he's 12. But he watched Barney, because Barney is, I gotta say, Barney is something I learned. My uncle, who was like the cool guy, like my one uncle, my uncle Chris, he was like the cool uncle. Like, he was younger. He married my aunt that's only 13 years older than me. Right. So he was like super cool back then. Like, he drove like the 69 Chevelle. He had like Nintendo games. He played guitars, even though you never saw him. He was just like this cool guy. He had cool cars. And then my cousin was born, and he was laying on the couch watching Barney. I'm like, you watch this stuff? And he taught me a lesson that I never thought I would use as a father or anything else. And he goes, no, it's not sad that I'm watching Barney. It's sad that I can't wait for this song to get over, because I like the next one better. And that is very true. When I got older. Okay. So that was my experience where, watching it. But I mean, my cousin watched Barney, but it wasn't like his big thing.
Yeah. That's pretty wild. So this, not only is this documentary really well made, but I did appreciate that it really does look at both aspects of Barney, the love of Barney, because they make sure that they talk about how big it got. I mean, even their first live show was a sellout, which is pretty wild considering at this time it wasn't even on PBS yet. They talk about it getting onto PBS, and it just really, really taking off from there.
All because of Super Bowl 25, man.
Yeah. Yes, it's pretty wild stuff. So how big he got, I mean, there's Barney references today. Like, I think there's like a purple dinosaur in Grand Theft Auto, like the new one. It's been out forever. GTA 5, I think there's like a purple dinosaur. It's a reference to him. He's referencing a lot of stuff. One of my favorite stories in this, though, is when they try to get litigious, and they try to start suing people over Barney stuff. And they talk to the guy who's what's his name? The mascot?
The San Diego Chicken.
Yeah, the San Diego Chicken, and he stays in costume.
Yeah, he is, dude. That was like his thing. Like,
I was so happy he stayed in costume. It made it even better.
What got really creepy was when you saw his mouth. Or like,
I think it was part of the joke, though, because like he even had to put on his glasses, and
that was probably the biggest mascot in sports.
Yeah, I definitely remember him. Yeah.
Even Pete Rose dressed up as him in WrestleMania 14 or something.
Yeah. But it was pretty funny. So basically, he had a bit where a knockoff Barney would come out and would outshine him, and he would get mad and jealous and beat it up. So that's literally the gist of it. Just a goofy joke, and they tried to sue him, and he actually won. But the best part of that is that he stays in character during this whole interview, and he never once breaks kayfabe. But it's pretty great, even down to, like I said, they give him something to read, and he has to put on his glasses, but he puts them in through the mouth because that's where his face is at. But he never breaks character.
I love that. I like the Jihad Barney guys. I love it when they start talking about it. And he's like, we got a little scared because we're just like college kids with no money. We don't know what to do. So
yeah,
I do like how they were like, okay, we're going to stop all this, because I think it's one of the things where the bigger you get, there are going to be the people that are just going to hate it because of how big you are.
Yeah.
And then, is Barney the greatest? No, but something that children loved in this time period.
Well, that's the risk of anything when it gets so big where it's everywhere. Music's a great example of this. I definitely remember when Creed first came out and people were like, oh, this is some good stuff. But then like that song got played everywhere again and again and again. And then it became truly annoying, right? Because it's just all you ever heard, and that was no fault of Creed themselves. It's just that's kind of what happens. And the same thing with Barney, same thing with anything that sort of takes over pop culture for a little bit, that kind of happens too.
I remember band. I played the trombone, and one of the first pieces of music we had to learn how to play was I Love You, You Love Me. So of course, my mom being the way that she is and everything else, and then we were living with my grandmother at the time, would be like, oh, play what you did in band. So I would have to sit there and be like, I was horrible. So that's why
I did like that they interviewed the guy who made that song, and he talked about that piano being cursed or something like that. Because he got death threats over that song, over creating that song. Like, that's going a bit too far.
Well, that was the big thing. Was I love the fact that they made it this way in the I Love You, You Hate Me, because that was the big thing growing up as a kid. Let's get together and kill Barney.
Yeah, that's what kids do, right? You take any song that gets big and it's easy to kind of make lyrics up to, like that one is. Everybody's got a version of Jingle Bells, Batman Smells, that type of thing. So it's definitely pretty fun. I think that you can have fun hating on something, and that's just fine. But there were obviously, and it's documented in this show, people who took it way too far.
Yeah,
that's a bit much there, buddy. Calm down a little bit.
I mean, to have them, I didn't realize they had them on talk shows and stuff like that.
Yeah, I did like the guy who. But here's the thing, that like most of the people that they interview, even down to the tantric sex guy, like most of them come off to me personality wise as pretty okay people. And like even down to the guy who voiced Barney for a long time. All these people, you could tell like they seem to really enjoy their time working on the show, and they come to me, they come off very well. There wasn't really a single person who was actually affiliated with the show that I thought came off like jerks. The only one that's just really weird is the tantric sex guy, and that's because he's in a tantric sex. And that's apparently a big part of his personality. That's the only thing. It really reminded me of I went to high school with these friends, and we were all really close. And one time I wasn't noticing this, but as we grew up and got older, one time I went over to their house and it dawned on me, like their personalities are like 50% all about marijuana now.
Oh,
because it's all they talk about, and it's all they want to do, and it's all they talk. That's fine. I don't have anything against it, but like I want to goof off and make jokes with my friends, and they're just like, man, have you tried this? And if you try this, whatever, it's some good stuff, man. And I'm like, okay, all right. So I hadn't been over there since.
I could understand that.
It's just that sometimes people get into something and it literally becomes half of who they are anymore. I'm sure people think about that with me and Ninja Turtles, so I get it.
It's not a problem.
Yeah,
like I said, I can't judge anybody. I have a Castle
or
Grayskull behind me.
Yeah, Yeah,
And then
where,
my kids
a
play,
certain-
like make sure everything goes back.
yeah, half my personality is based on the career of one certain Mr. DeLome. So
Who doesn't love Jake Delhomme?
yeah,
But I think the reason why they enjoyed it so much is when you hit your core audience and make
Yeah.
so much joy. I think that's the big thing about it.
yes, that's the thing that I realized. Like when I was in my 20s, if I didn't like something, I was like, well, it's awful and it's horrible. Like I became a comedy snob, and I certainly became a music snob. And I would voice out these things. Like I'd be like, oh, country music is like the radio country music is so awful, it's horrible. And then I got older and I realized, you know what? It just some people just need something to rewind, to unwind and relax, and that brings them a little bit of joy. So who cares at the end of the day?
Yeah.
It's not hurting anybody. Just let people enjoy what they enjoy as long as nobody's getting hurt. So
that's pretty much the first one. And I love it how the first one ended because I was like, oh, okay, here we go into the second one. And then they start talking about Cheryl Leach's son, Patrick. And
yes.
did you guys see any signs of what Patrick was going to do?
Yeah, so they alluded a lot to what something's obviously going to happen to Patrick.
Yes. And then all of a sudden it ends. And I thought I was just going to maybe watch like one episode and then watch another one later on.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, what did Patrick do?
Yeah, I had to watch him all the way through. I was like, I have to know what happened to Patrick because, again, you never actually see him in an interview. He's never interviewed in this. He's just brought up, and that's kind of it until they start saying, hey, did you think that's literally a question that they would ask, like, did you know what would happen to Patrick would happen? And that one babysitter was kind of weird about it and all this stuff. So you're like, what's going on here?
But in the next one, even in the next one, you really don't find out about it. But you find out that even though as big as Barney was, it put a big kind of dark cloud over this family because they alluded to, it was made for Patrick, but Patrick got older, but he was still there. It wasn't like an imaginary friend where once you get older, unlike Drop Dead Fred, like an imaginary friend, it kind of goes away.
Yeah.
But
And the mom would all the time, even in interviews, say that Barney was like another son to her, like constantly said that.
And that was like a big, huge thing. The father quit his job and he was like an executive for some company and quit his job because Barney was the full-time thing.
Yeah, became the ultimate breadwinner.
Yeah. Well, I could see why. It was huge, but it was like crazy, all this stuff. And it took a lot of, it's like kind of like the dark side of fame, even though everybody wants to be famous, nobody wants to deal with, in a way, sometimes I feel the things that come along with.
Yes. There's pros and cons to everything. Like I said before, it's just, being Andrew, we're, very famous podcasters and we got to deal with the thousands and thousands upon thousands of people constantly just trying to get a moment of our time, so I get it.
Got tons on Patreon. Tons.
Oh man. Oh god, we're making so much money. It's ridiculous. Please go to Patreon because we're joking and we are desperate.
Yes, we cut out a movie review because it couldn't fit into our budget.
We really did. And that movie review was The Ghost of Mr. Chicken. We couldn't afford The Ghost of Mr. Chicken.
Yes. But you could go to our Patreon for $1 a month. You can get exclusive content. And right now, it's $1 a month. We have no tiers. We're no nothing.
Well, there's tears, but it's coming from our eyes.
Yeah. That is true. That is true.
But I'm very proud of the stuff we put that we
and looking at our budget for the show.
Yeah.
That's where the tears,
which were in the red, is all I'm going to say.
Yes. Yes. But that clouded my family.
What other podcast could say that they couldn't afford to watch The Ghost of Mr. Chick?
If we talk anymore, Sally Struthers is going to come out for $1.
We just need that really sad, like Alanis Morissette music playing behind us, and we're just looking at the camera all sad like those dogs do.
Help us.
In the arms of an angel.
You could help 2 struggling podcasters.
Andrew, we're going to do this. You know that, right?
Yeah. And you can catch it on our Patreon.
That's right.
But that was like it was a big dark cloud. And I don't know if we just want to kind of jump into like everything that happens to this family after
I think we got to.
she sells Barney in what,
to a big
2001?
company. Yeah, she sells Barney to a big company. I forgot who the company was, but it's one of the big ones, right? Who was it?
I think it was like NBC or
It was some huge one of the huge ones. Yeah. So she made even more money to the point where her and her husband get a divorce. She moves to where does she take her son? It's Cancun or somewhere like that. No, it's not Cancun. It's some tropical place. And they live there for a while. And he's getting older. He's now in like his 20s. And he moves to California. And that's where it kind of starts getting pretty wild.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's in California. And he has a pretty nice house because they show you the house and everything.
A mansion. So
yeah,
mother made,
which is really weird because like they show you like the neighborhood it's in, and his house really sticks out.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, like you know that one house in the neighborhood that's obvious that this family has a lot of money and everybody else is kind of struggling. That's really what it looks like to me. But he has a neighbor. Like he lives there with his family. I think he's married, and doesn't he have kids too? I believe. I think they said he did.
I think there was 3 kids there. I don't know if they were his kids.
Yeah, but he has a family there,
like a stepfather situation.
Yeah. So but he's there with his family, and he and this neighbor start getting into disputes and stuff. They just don't get along, and basically what were they mad at? Like he found him on his yard or something like that.
Yeah, it's like just stupid neighbor,
little petty neighbor stuff.
Quabble.
That you hear about all the time when 2 neighbors aren't getting along. Like everything's blown way out of proportion, and how big it is. One of my favorite stories is Trevor's dad, and which is really sad because they've lived there forever. I mean, that's the house I'd always go to when I was a kid. Was there, but their next door neighbor, who's right there, had a nice pool and everything, would let us come and swim. They were as nice as they could be. Something just changed, and they got to where like they just were very jerkish.
Okay.
And so Trevor's dad would just start doing little petty things. Like with a fence, he would hang up his underwear where they could see it.
I'm not gonna lie, I understand that.
Yeah.
My mom had a neighbor like that, and he would come over, and we used to keep the gas can outside.
Yeah.
A little where our basement was, it was kind of cut out, and you could just put the gas can there, nothing, no water during like the summertime, anything like that. So we would steal our gas. So I was told to go outside and mow the lawn. I'd be like, there's no gas. And of course, my mom and my stepdad would be like, what are you talking about? We just got gas. So my stepdad went out and bought another gas can. We kept the gas in the basement, which he didn't want to do, but we kept the gas in the basement. And another one, and he was like, pee in this. So I peed in the gas can so that way he would stop stealing our gas. But he did a lot of petty stuff.
Yeah.
And then my mom moved to Florida. My brother kind of like rented it from my mom, and he would still do the same things with my brother. But the weird thing is once I came back from the Marines, whenever I was over, he would never come outside, never do anything. And they would be like, dude, we got to have you over all the time because like everything is like perfectly calm when you come over. And I'm like,
yeah,
no, no.
So weird. Like it's just strange. I've been very lucky. My neighbor here is like just a sweet old lady. So she's very nice, and like she'll even check in over here sometimes to make sure everything's okay, that type of thing. So she's really sweet. But I know some people are not near as lucky.
No, I'm lucky here where I live with like neighbors and everything else.
Yeah.
But one day though, Mr. Patrick Leach decides he has enough, and
he can't take it anymore.
Yeah, literally puts on body armor, puts on a bulletproof vest, shotgun, right? And he goes over and he shoots the guy.
In the back, I thought, like they were having a talk, and the guy goes to walk away, and he shoots him, obviously meaning to kill. Thankfully, that guy does survive, but then he takes off, right? And when they find him, he's got that bulletproof vest, which obviously means this is, to me, premeditated.
And the defense for this was pretty good. I don't want to get into any who was right, who was wrong type deal like that, because you could go, I don't want to say you could go either side, but it was very weird. Like they kind of used like a
Yeah, anytime you shoot somebody, that automatically puts you in the more wrong to me. But
in like an insanity
especially
defense.
yeah, especially when there's not really self-defense involved, and I don't think there's any self-defense involved here.
But he felt threatened, and they used the whole hatred of Barney over it. I didn't even know who Patrick Leach was before this. I didn't know. So if you're deep diving that much into Barney, either you're a huge fan or you have a complete obsession of hatred.
What did you think of that one fanatic who is an adult who they interview? Like he's all throughout this thing. He's like the Barney expert.
I don't see a problem with it.
I don't either. I really don't either.
And I wanted to save because Steve from Blue's Clues is in this.
Yes.
He is absolutely amazing. I don't know if that guy has gone through sainthood yet, but the question he asked at the end of it, I want to save to the end of this.
Yeah.
But I didn't see at first I was like, I got very cynical where I'm like, dude.
I caught myself doing that too, and then I realized this would be no different than if they were interviewing me about Ninja Turtles or something like that.
I have a Castle Grayskull behind me.
Yeah. Again, yeah. So there's no difference there. Just people have different fandoms of things.
Yeah. I have very interesting stuff. I have different, plaques of movies that meant a lot to me growing up. Right above my office, it says warning, Velociraptors. And so I can't
literally right in front of me is a still in package Mankind WWF figure.
So what are you going to say? If that's his thing, that's his thing.
Right. Yeah.
And another thing with that is there's a guy that does that. He runs He-Man.org.
Yes.
History of He-Man. And I'm like, this guy's cool. And then here's this guy who's a Barney historian. I'm like, he's a dork. Well, why is he a dork? And the guy that runs He-Man.org is a dork. And that kind of like processed through my brain. Like,
yes, I did the same thing. Like it's just at the end of the day, it's easy to be hypocritical without realizing it.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely guilty of that. So yeah.
But
like I said though, they interview a lot of awesome people in here.
We didn't even get to the other part about the family.
That
was like good. They touched on this very quick, if you know.
Yes.
So they talk about the minute Barney sold, Cheryl and her husband get a divorce, and he ends up committing suicide in 2010.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, we're just gonna gloss over this, which I understand because you don't want to get too much into that. That's kind of a very deep thing, but it was like, wow, Barney, like as big as it was, like really
took a toll.
Really impacted this family.
Because apparently a lot of people really like that guy too. Like it was obviously a very sad thing. And that's got to affect Patrick. I mean, I don't know what his relationship was with his dad when that happened, but it's obviously got to affect you somehow because they make it very apparent that the mom was away a lot because of the Barney stuff. So he was probably with his dad way, way more.
Yeah.
So that cannot be easy. It's got to affect you mentally in some capacity. It's losing anybody that you're close to just sucks, but especially if it's something like that. Like, how do you process that?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a weird thing I wouldn't wish upon anybody. So, but yeah, they really do they bring it up. They talk to a couple people who say a few little things, and it just kind of is, that's it. They move on.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And then they kind of allude to a little bit that once Barney was sold, the premise of Barney was changed. They brought in a character riff that...
Yeah, what's it called when a show brings in a new... It's called something because the show did that, where they brought in a new character, and everybody kind of hates that character. It's a sitcom. A very famous sitcom.
Cousin Oliver.
Yes. The Cousin Oliver effect.
Wasn't it Cousin Oliver?
I think you're right. Yes.
Because
if not, he's one of the major examples of it at the very least.
The Cousin Oliver syndrome. Oh my goodness.
That's it. Yeah.
Right up. First examples of yes.
You can find this in a lot of shows where they're toward the end of their lifespan of the show and they're just kind of grasping at anything they can.
It's always the little kid.
Yeah, and it's never the kid's fault, by the way, but they will be the one who get blamed.
Yeah.
Get the blame.
it's almost like in life, like fixing a marriage where they're like, oh, they're gonna try and have a kid to fix the marriage.
Yes,
They're like,
yes.
we're gonna fix the show by having
That's gonna fix everything.
it's gonna be 100%. Or a kid gets older, so they need to bring in like a younger kid, like Cosby Show.
Yes, yeah,
Ruby's getting older. All right, we gotta switch this. Let's bring in Raven Simone and
or just do like Family Matters did and just write that character out of history. Just don't ever talk about them again. They went upstairs and they never came back down. That's happened quite a bit too. That happened on Happy Days. It's happened on a lot of shows.
it's bad.
It's pretty
Like
wild.
even Growing Pains, like they just had a kid, and then all of a sudden they adopt a kid in Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
Like we're
Yeah.
gonna just go full bore for our last 2 seasons.
But anyway, so that kind of happens on Barney. They add a new character and
It's kind of
try to relate to the kids because as they bring out, as they talk about, society was sort of starting to lean toward, Nirvana and the grunge and being cynical was way more of a thing, which was obviously something that Barney never was.
well, then they talked about it. I never noticed it. Is they talk about conflict being involved.
Yes, yeah.
Like there was never any conflict in earlier Barney, and then all of a sudden they bring in these, and it's like, I want to do this. No, you can't do this. We're gonna do this. Okay, well now we need to figure out how to solve a conflict.
Yeah,
in this way, which I never got it, and I guess nobody liked Riff because he was baby BJ's and Baby Bop's 6-year-old cousin.
Yeah, yes.
It was introduced in the 10th season.
Yeah.
Why? That's so horrible.
So that's 98 because I think the show started in 88. So that's 98 to 2000 around in there.
No, they didn't count the VHSs.
Oh, okay.
So
2001. Oh, 6. Okay. All right.
2006.
All right. So yeah, that's a total Cousin Oliver move. I feel.
Yeah, they didn't make anything in 2004 or 6. It looks like 2001 also.
Okay. Yeah.
Every other year they were like, do, bang them out.
There's a lot of shows though that are been around way longer than you think. Like SpongeBob has been around forever now.
Can't stand SpongeBob anymore.
Oh, I love early SpongeBob.
Early SpongeBob is good.
Early SpongeBob is amazing, but after like season 5 or whatever, it's not near as good, in my opinion.
I really like SpongeBob when I found out. I
love the movie. I love the first movie though. That first movie's fantastic.
Yeah. I liked I used to love to watch. Well, I wouldn't say I loved to watch it, but because I had to watch the show Coach.
Yes, yeah.
And Dauber on there, voice of Patrick Star. So once I found that out, I was like, this is great. This is just absolutely like
Patrick's my favorite character.
Yeah. So, but
my reason I'm bringing it up is that show's been around since '99 and they're still making new ones. So that's over 20 years of SpongeBob. People don't even think about that.
Probably the biggest longevity one.
Yeah. Yeah, but like we said, Barney's was around for 20 plus years, and I don't think people realize that. It's pretty crazy if you think about it. Like if you make anything that gets popular for like 2 years, I consider that a success.
Yeah, but that's pretty much like the second episode on this. I don't know why they just didn't make it 1-2 hour, but and I think at the end, like I said, and we both agree, Stephen Blue's Clues is absolutely amazing.
Yes,
we talk about the hatred of Barney and everything else, and he drops the question, like Barney is love. He made kids feel comfortable. It was beloved, and then he drops the question, and I was like kind of mind blown by this in a way because I wasn't expecting it. He was like, "Well, who is your Barney?"
Yeah, growing
up, and I'm like, "Wow, like who was your early childhood make you feel good type person?" And I'm like, that's like a really wonderful kind of question and makes you think like we talked about, can you really hate kids for loving Barney? Since we all have that maybe 1, 2, 3 type things in our life that was like we held on to, and no matter how, I mean, you're little, but how crappy the day is or anything like that, you can still hold on to it even to this day and go back
I will never hate the Muppets. That was my thing when I was a kid, was the Muppets. Kermit and Fozzie Bear especially were my fellows that I wanted to hang out with when I was a really young kid. To the point where when Kermit would show up every once in a while on Sesame Street, it was like the coolest thing to like 5-year-old me. It was like, oh, like, holy crap, that's Kermit the Frog. You know, it was just so cool. But he's right. He also brings up the fact that when you are this object of love and extreme hatred, how weird it is, because he would experience this with being from Blue's Clues.
Oh,
Where like all these rumors would spread that he was dead or had like or an overdose and all this stuff. And he goes, you start thinking people just want you dead.
I remember hearing that in high school and thinking like we were the only high school that had that going around, or the only city, and to hear it like spread that far.
Oh yeah,
completely
I heard it too. Yeah,
mind blowing to me.
Yeah, but he comes off very well in this.
Yeah,
but so I feel like he's probably out of all the people they talk to, I guarantee you he's the one who probably understood the whole thing the most, because he kind of went through something similar.
Yeah, because
there was for a little bit while Blue's Clues was all over the place.
Yeah, I remember Blue's Clues being everywhere. My nieces were into Blue's Clues.
Yeah, I mean, to the point where it was a major news when he was stepping down and they were getting somebody else. So,
yeah, it's never been the same since. There was a lot of backlash. There still is.
Weren't people really excited when he like made that one comeback that one time? Like he showed up one time, people were very excited about that.
Yeah, I'm in a bunch of like 80s and 90s groups, and obviously was in the 90s. And so like they bring it up, and a lot of people like the younger kids in the 90s that would remember Stephen Blue's Clues posted in those groups, and we're like, yeah, we were not watching.
Yeah, but I get it though. Like,
I do get it. Yeah, I get it. Like my guy, like I said in the beginning, was, you know, pretty much was, I love Fred Penner. But my guy was Mr. Dress Up, and if you ever check him out on YouTube, and this made me think about why Mr. Dress Up was so comforting to me too, is that by the time I reached a certain age, by the time I was like 3, both of my grandfathers were dead, and Mr. Dress Up was an older guy.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, and he was a very friendly guy, and obviously he would, you know, dress up. He would have his tickle trunk. If anybody lived by the border, they know what I'm talking about. And he could dress up in the costumes, and he made crafts, and he, you know, told stories, and he did all this cool stuff. And Mr. Dressup was just like the man. Like he would go in the kitchen and make a snack sometimes. That was like a big deal because he took you in different parts of his house. Outside, he had puppets, Casey and Finnegan.
Yeah.
And it was just, and Casey was a boy and Finnegan was a dog. And it was just very nice, comforting. It was, you know, just the way that he talked and everything else. And I can
again, Steve is right. We all have these people. I mean, LeVar Burton, Reading Rainbow, that was appointment television for 5-year-old me. You know, he would bring these stories to life. I knew that before I knew Star Trek or anything like that, right? Before he was even doing that, I was a big LeVar Burton fan purely from Reading Rainbow. It was a comfort to have him reading to me, you know. I mean, I was very lucky. My parents would read to me all the time, but it's just something about LeVar Burton. Like, it felt like he was doing it, even though obviously he wasn't doing it just for me, but it kind of felt like that, right? Mr. Rogers is the same way. It felt like whenever he was talking directly to you, and there was a connection there. And that's not something that you can just make up. It's got to be in that person. It's got to be in how it's presented and all this stuff. And you know, even though Barney came out at a time where I was past that appealing to me, I get it, because when I was younger, there were shows where I felt like, wow, this is talking directly to me, and I feel like I'm a part of it somehow.
Yeah.
So that's it's a major thing.
I gotta give Optimus Prime up there too with being my party to this day. If I
don't mention Raphael from the Ninja Turtles, then I'm being a hypocrite. So
to this day, I have to mentally prepare myself, like
for the movie
30 years later, to watch Transformers the movie.
The first one, yeah.
Yes, movie. The greatest movie of them all. Like
one of my prized, one of my biggest Christmas memories is I really wanted this Optimus Prime truck. Right, I really wanted it. I didn't think I was ever going to get it. But then Christmas at my grandma's, and my aunt goes, "Hey, Johnny, there's one last present here for you," that she had gotten me. And by golly, it was Optimus Prime with trailer, Andrew. Came with
Yes.
his trailer.
That's
And I played with that thing until it broke. So,
I'm-
Optimus Prime rules.
I mean, I even got to put He-Man in there. Like, I didn't realize how much He-Man meant to me until I watched the toys that made us, and I'm watching it. I'm like, I had so many great memories with.
If you're listening to this show, it's obvious that you're a nerd in something. I'm a nerd in a lot of things.
I mean,
So to be mad at people or kids especially loving Barney or connecting with Barney is ridiculous if you really break it down, because guaranteed, again, like Steve from Blue's Clues said, who's your Barney? We all have at the very least one. I guarantee you, most of us have multiple Barneys.
I have multiple Barneys.
I have multiple Barneys as well. Which is good because the first 2 weeks of November, well, this one's out of the way now, but we got more Barney coming your way.
Yeah, way more. We got one more Barney. We got one more Barney and Barney Fife, Mr.
Yeah, so we're covering Barney Fife next, or more correctly, Don Knotts.
Yes.
And then after that, we're going to do the Barney and Betty Hill case. No, we're not doing that, but it would be pretty fun if we just kept this Barney theme going.
Barney Rubble.
Yeah.
And then
I like how we're directly to
we're doing a retrospective on the Barney Miller show.
I like how out of all the nostalgia things, I picked the UFO one because, of course, I did. That's what I do. But yeah, so next time on the Nostalgia Funhouse, we're going to talk about a man who is criminally underrated now. And I think it's just because he's been gone for so long as of now. But the one of the greatest physical actors, I think, that it's obvious who all he inspired. So we're going to be talking about Don Knotts. Very excited. We're still not going to watch The Ghost of Mr. Chicken because we can't afford it. But there are other Don Knotts stuff on YouTube for free.
Yes.
Which we can't afford currently, but if we don't get more patrons, even that's not looking great.
We might cancel our YouTube that for free.
So please go to our Patreon and support it. I promise you, we're putting up some very fun stuff there.
Yes.
Guaranteed. So go check that out. Well, let's kind of give this documentary a rating, I think. Andrew, I think it deserves a rating. It was
How do we rate it though? We normally do our movie reviews off of something.
Yeah, I mean, how many I Love Yous do you give it?
I give it
out of 5.
I think probably, if I got it now, probably the top 2 I've watched the past couple of years in documentaries is the McBillions or McBillions.
Yes, that one's really good.
And what is that? Class Action Park.
Yes, that one's really
I
good
would
too.
definitely give like very, very high ratings. This one I would give 4.5 I Love Yous, because I consider those 5.
I got you.
This one's kind of 4.5 because
I would give I think the last documentary that really connected with me to the point where I actually bought the DVD was Won't You Be My Neighbor, the Fred Rogers one, the Mr. Rogers one. That one is so freaking good. And that one's a 5 all the way. This one, though, this is one of those where I didn't expect it to really connect with me, because I really did grow up not caring one lick about Barney. At the most, I was annoyed by him because that's all my little cousin would watch. But this documentary they would bring up things and make me really think. And like you said, like, man, we all have our own Barney. It really does tug at you, and it's really well done. And there's some really wild twists and turns. It's not remotely boring, which is what I was fearing when I was like, they're doing a Barney documentary. Like, that's got to be boring. It's not at all, not in the least. It's so well done. I'm with you. I'm giving it also 4.5 I Love Yous. It's really good. If you're remotely familiar with Barney, whether you loved him or hated him, I think you should watch this.
If you're in that time period, then definitely check it out. Like, it's hate him, and it just I was into it. And if you would have asked me before Steve from Blue's Clues dropped that question, I probably would have gone like maybe 3.
He knocked it up at least
4.
Yeah.
But once he asked that question, that was probably like the greatest mic drop argument of all time for Barney, for anything, and that was it.
Yeah, agreed. He knocks it up a bunch. I'd take him, just an interview with him, just talking.
Yes.
I'd listen to that and watch that
And
all
I
day.
didn't even grow up with the man.
I didn't either. That was not a show that that was well past after I was old. When did Blue's Clues come in? I guarantee you I was already out of high school.
I remember I was in eighth. I remember it best in like eighth grade. Oh, my little cousin did watch Blue's Clues, but not as, I don't think as much. Blue's Clues. Yes.
96 was
Yeah.
the first episode.
10 seasons.
Wow.
That's a lot of letters.
That is. That's a lot of letters.
I think whenever you get a catchy song from a show,
that helps a lot. I mean, I literally was singing Reading Rainbow and Wishbone earlier. So, yeah. Man. All right. Well, that's been I Love You, You Hate Me, the Barney documentary.
Yeah.
Make sure if you go check that out, let us know what you thought on our social medias. We have a Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
So go check that out. Andrew is all the time posting really fun pop culture related stuff, like a lot of this day in history, pop culture related things. He does a lot of little fun stuff there and ask a lot of fun questions. So go check that out. Join that. And of course, again, last time I will hawk our Patreon. Go check that out. Really, I promise you, it's really fun, goofy audio. That it's exclusive to there for only $1, and we've got a lot in the bag, and we're going to do a lot more. So check that out. Thank you for all the patrons we have currently. You one person, you're great. Let's
give him a shout out.
Yeah.
Christopher C.
He'd probably be mad at us if we did, to be honest.
I said Christopher C.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah. So thank you, Christopher C. If that's your real name. Thank you. But we appreciate all you listeners. I'm very happy with how this show keeps growing. It's a lot of fun. So keep listening. Anything else we want to add, Andrew, before we get out of here?
YouTube is, watch some Let's Plays. I've been playing some games on YouTube, trying to do that at least once a week or every other week.
We have a Ninja Turtle video heading that way, I believe, soon. Did we need this?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. We're just waiting on one last thing for it. So that should be soon. So go check that out on what's the name of the YouTube channel?
The Nostalgia Funhouse.
The Nostalgia Funhouse YouTube channel. Go check it out.
Yep.
Andrew does a lot of fun stuff on there. See, this is why I say I just get to ride coattails. I don't have to do any of that stuff. I just show up and run my dumb, stupid mouth, and it's great. It's a great gig for me.
It's not that bad. It's one of those things where we make no money off of this, so I feel sometimes no obligation to do it other than
if we start making money, I'm gonna have to seriously question what's fair for me to ask for, because you do so much.
We could get into contract negotiation.
I'm not giving up the tantric sex, Andrew. I'm sorry. I just refuse.
Shh, you weren't supposed to say anything. Now we got to kick you off the show.
Dadgummit.
We're gonna lose our one patron.
Oh man, now I gotta go talk to Sting. He's the only one who understands me. Not the musician, not the wrestler. I don't know if the wrestler.
You know what's funny is I thought about the wrestler first.
I did too, since I said it, even though I knew the reference I was making.
I think actually I saw somewhere, I don't know how true it is, that Sting the wrestler owns the name Sting, and he has to pay Sting the musician pays the wrestler Sting $1 a year to use the name Sting.
I don't know if that's true, but I will always say it is. I don't care if it's true or not, because that sounds amazing.
I love Sting.
I do too. Yeah,
Man,
he was one of my mom's favorites, so he's always gonna have a place for me.
he's the best, but
Even down to Surfer Sting. Surfer Sting was great.
this is one of the reasons why it's WCW.
Yep, me too.
But with that being said, good morning, good afternoon, and good night.
Hey kids!